Alright guys, today we have here the Galaxy A57 5G, Samsung's latest mid-range device. It costs RM2399 here in Malaysia and I've been using it for close to 2 weeks now. So let me share with you a couple of things that I like and things that I wish was improved. Let's begin the video right away. Now, first up, starting off with the thing that I like the most, and that's actually in terms of the design and the form factor. Now, you might think that the design looks very similar to last year. Well, I like the fact that it still looks very close to its bigger brother, the S27 Ultra, and it's also gone slimmer this year around. That means even thinner, but still retaining that curved edges, so everything just feels very comfortable to hold in your hand. Now, you're going to appreciate this because it's also about 20 grams lighter than last gen, so it's actually a fairly comfortable, lightweight device. You won't feel that your hands are being stressed out when you're using it for long periods of time, especially since I know a lot of you browse a lot of social media. So the design, the build, form factor is great. Moving on, let's talk about the second thing that I like here, and that's actually in terms of the display at the front. It's now using a Super AMOLED Plus display, and you might be wondering, what's the diff between a Super AMOLED and an AMOLED Plus? Well, basically, you won't notice it if you're just looking at the screen face on, but if you do bring over maybe something like the A37 and compare them side by side, right away, you'll notice that the colors, the picture on the A37 looks a bit more faded compared to the A57. So it's not a marketing gimmick with the Super AMOLED Plus wording. It does look closer to the Galaxy S27 Ultra, although it's not there yet in terms of its picture quality. But still a very strong display for the A57. Now, let's move on. Third thing, the thing that I kind of like and don't really like, and that's actually in terms of the cameras. Now, the good thing here is that Samsung promises even faster imaging and all that. Basically, these are pretty much the same sensors that you get from last year, and I think they still take some pretty nice one-time shots, 2 times, and even 4 times. However, I think by today's standards, we are really missing and need a telephoto lens on the A57. Mid-range phones today, like your competitors, by the way, we have the Realme as well as the Nothing Phone 4a over here, 4a Pro. Now, those already have very strong telephoto lenses that allows you to zoom, and anything past 10 times looks a bit more clearer and sharper on those phones. So I'm not saying that you're going to be taking a lot of zoom shots, but sometimes you just need the telephoto lens to get a picture of something far away, and that's where the A57 really lets down because pictures turn out looking grainy and not clear. Now, other than that, again, this might not matter to you, but the phone itself still does not support 4K 60 FPS. It maxes out at 4K 30 or 1080 60. So, again, depending on you, if you don't take a lot of videos, you're not going to care about this at all. Okay, moving on to the next point here, let's talk about the processing power. Now, with every new iteration of the Galaxy A series, we have an updated Exynos chipset. Now, the good news here is that in terms of benchmark scores, it's now very close to the Snapdragon 7 Gen 4 and sometimes even higher, a little bit higher in terms of the multi-core score. However, when it comes to real-world use, now this is where it matters the most. Day-to-day tasks obviously is pretty smooth, but when it comes to gaming, a very simple game that a lot of people here in Malaysia at least play is Mobile Legends. And this is where it was a little bit disappointing on the A57. Now, I noticed quite a fair bit of drop in frame rates, especially dropping almost up to 40 FPS during a clash, and I think that's a bit not really acceptable for my standards. And that's because a lot of phones at this price point, or maybe even lower, could already game smoothly on Mobile Legends at those kind of graphic levels, but we are still not seeing that on the A57. So, again, if you don't care about gaming, this will not matter to you, but if you do some light gaming, don't expect the Galaxy A57 here to be very strong in that segment. Now, on to some good stuff. The battery life on here is actually excellent. So even though Samsung has made this even thinner, it actually still retains the same battery size as last gen, which is 5000 mAh. Now, the number might not sound big, but because it's a very efficient chipset, the phone is actually able to last at least 1.5 days, on a single charge. So obviously, like I said, if you're buying this phone, you're not going to be gaming a lot. You're just going to be browsing on social media, checking out your Chrome, browsing on the maps, all that kind of stuff there. It should last you more than a day on a single charge. Finally, and this is actually a very important point, and not many phones can actually claim that, and that is the Galaxy A57 comes with 6 years of software as well as security updates. So this phone is going to last you a pretty long time, I would say. So if that's something that is of your concern as well, this is definitely something to choose. Of course, you also have that One UI 8.5, which brings along a lot of features, all those AI stuff and all that. So I know a lot of people choose Samsung mainly for their software because they find it very confident to use it. It's very stable, no bugs, no weird ads popping up when you're using the app. So that's also something that you should consider when getting a new mid-range phone. Anyway, at the end of the day, for the price of RM2399, I think it's still a pretty solid choice. However, there are some things where I feel must be upgraded in the next gen of A58, especially the telephoto lens and a stronger chipset. It doesn't need to be the strongest, just a little bit more power, and then we'll be fine. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.